contractor and said, here this company, Northpoint and DirecTV, are trying to kill each other. Go look at the problem and come up with alternatives. And MITRE, playing the wise King Solomon, came up with a set of alternatives, which interesting, both sides sort of accepted and resolved it. That's very different dynamics than having two parties feuding with each other, meeting privately off the public record, like the Constitutional Convention. Remember, the Constitutional Convention was also off the public record. The Constitutional Convention was successful, as we know. Will this be that successful? I really don't know. Congress considered this issue 2 decades ago and passed the Negotiated Rulemaking Act for this type of thing, which had various safeguards in it. This is not being done under the Negotiated Rulemaking Act, and we had the bizarre instance a week or two ago of the Air Force and Department of Transportation saying, we've been left out, please invite us to the table. Well, you know, maybe I should be invited to the table. I mean, you know, maybe they should have done this under the Negotiated Rulemaking Act in the first place, which had safeguards for this type of thing. I'm reminded in the mid-'80s, there was another adjacent channel debate, this time at the boundary between the low end of the FM broadcast band. Instrument landing system was at the upper end. At the low end of the FM broadcast band is TV channel 6. And they were trying to increase the power of public broadcasters like WETA, WAMU, who at that time were generally 50 or 100 watts, to where they are now was, I think it's a few kilowatts. And their neighbors, the FM channels, the TV channel 6 owners, were up in arms. FCC told them, or let them go off, cut a deal among themselves. They cut a deal. In this case, they sort of had to, because FCC made it clear that they wanted the FM broadcasters to get more power. There was a question of what exactly the details were. So the TV channel 6 people could not say hell no, like the GPS people were trying to do. I mean, the odds were a little bit more stacked. But it was interesting that in that case, in the decision that was taken in the mid-'80s, the FCC looked at the deal that the FM and Channel 6 people had made in a smoke-filled room and fine-tuned it a little bit. Interesting, fine-tuning it slightly to the benefit of the educational FM broadcasters, NCE is the FCC jargon, rationalizing that if two private directly affected parties meet and agree upon a deal, that's not necessarily reflecting the overall public interest, because the viewers of both are involved and the viewers weren't involved. I could also point out, there's a minor detail, less obvious then, that most people watch Channel 6 over cable TV than by having an antenna, but that's at that point, cable TV wasn't quite as big as it is now. But, and also they said that the two sides were unequal. Indeed, the TV Channel 6 broadcasters were much better funded than the educational people are. In this case, the GPS people both are ongoing industries and have the Air Force, for various bizarre reasons, siding with them on issues that it isn't clear to me that the Air Force, clear some of the issues the Air Force should be involved in, particularly the issues relating to military users. It's less obvious why the Air Force is involved in some other issues like the quirks of wheat farmers. Is that the I'm an Air Force veteran, and I'm embarrassed by some of the things the Air Force has been doing in this type of thing. So, you know, is the public interest what they meet in the smoke-filled room? Is it reasonable for the FCC to rubber stamp everything that they agree upon? There is precedent for them doing otherwise. Negotiated rulemakings at FCC have generally not been successful, although at EPA they have been successful. Read my blog and you'll understand why I think the difference is between EPA and FCC. But the smoke-filled room approach has had its problems too. At the moment we're trying the smoke-filled room approach with constitutional convention-like secrecy.
And just one more step.
Except there are monthly reports. It's not totally secret, but there are monthly public reports.
Which is where I was going to go next. It sounds like there's going to be a report out in June, and then
But every month before that.
Okay, and then what they're hoping to do is by third quarter start to go lights grid, to start to go online, if you will, to start to make their deals and start to do their retail dealings. In your expert opinion, is that even possible in that short of a time? It seems tight to me, but
You know, I could point out that the TV white space issue is docket 04186. 04 is 2011, do the math, that's 7 years. The recent M to Z AWS 3 controversy, they were a client of mine. I have no clients in this current thing. The M to Z controversy dragged on for over 4 years. So I'm sort of surprised that they think they can settle. I have openly criticized the inability of the FCC to reach closure on these issues that have dragged on for year after year after year. In the ultra wideband case, which was around 2000, that dragged on for 4 or 5 years, and it turned out to be truly a Pyrrhic victory in that the ultra wideband companies won a partial victory, some victory, and the two biggest companies involved went bankrupt within a year. In the case of M to Z, FCC never resolved the issue. After over 4 years, they said, we still can't resolve it. Now, I'm sorry, the spectrum problems in M to Z are different than the ones here, but no more complex than the ones here. And after 4 years, they were unresolved, and and FCC indicated that they couldn't figure out when they could resolve them. They issued no written ruling, and the investors of M to Z pulled the plug, and the company collapsed. You know, if FCC does this a few more times, there will be no private capital available for innovative radio technologies. Because I'm not sure if there's a viable business plan for an innovative radio technology, or in this case, it's not necessarily innovative technology, but use of a band which is other line fallow, that requires non-routine regulatory approval if all the enemies of it can drag it out for year after year after year. So on the one hand, I'm happy that they think they can do it in 6 months, and I think that FCC should try to do things faster. Indeed, Section 7 of the Communications Act says for new technologies, and I doubt if anyone would classify light squared as new technology, but for new technologies, a theoretical legal requirement of a 1-year decision-making time. But clearly, FCC has not been able to do that for new technologies. What's surprising is that light squared, it's not new, it's not that complex. These things should not take 4 years. Can it be done in 6 months? It's hard to say, but I think FCC should increase its speed of resolving things, and I frankly think FCC has to do some hard internal looking at how it deals with these type of technical policy issues, because I don't think it's set up to deal with these technical policy issues in an efficient, effective manner.
And that's an interesting point. The fact that the slow decision-making could impact technological innovation and capital into the industry is significant. Is that one reason why they're trying to get the smart radios up and running? One, to potentially go around the FCC, that you don't have to worry.
What do you mean by smart radios?
My understanding about smart radios is that it will find the most
Cognitive radios?
Pardon me?
Are you using cognitive radios instead of smart?
potentially where they can find the best wave or the best frequency to tune up to. In other words,
Yeah.
open sky, open ocean.
Cognitive radio is a more common technical term.
Okay, forgive me. So is that one reason why they're kind of going that avenue? Because
but that's becoming a huge controversy in its own. And the TV white space thing was one special case of that, and that's what's dragged on for 7 years so far. And that was the simplest case because TV stations don't move. TV stations are on 24 hours a day. That was supposed to be the simple case of finding the vacant frequency. And the TV broadcasters, decide to have a temper tantrum over this and fight it tooth and nail and obfuscate the issue. And after 7 years, while we theoretically have FCC final rules, FCC hasn't finished dotting the i's and crossing the t's to the point where equipment can even be sold.
Okay.
So, you know, this particular light square thing is not innovative technology. It's taking existing technology in a new band, raising perhaps some new questions, but the technology is not innovative. But these things, this is what spectrum management is about. There have been a bunch of problems over the past 10 years which are similar to parts of this problem. To the general public, this may seem like an innovative problem. There's an analogous problem floating around called the PCS H-block problem. PCH is the second generation cellular phones. One piece of the PCH band, the so-called H-block, is vacant at the moment. It sort of could be used, but if it would be used, today's generation of PCS receivers would receive interference not on the adjacent band, but the almost adjacent band due to a complex problem, which in part has to do with the quality of receivers. So it's not exactly adjacent, but it's a receiver problem. The receivers are good enough for what's there today. They're not good enough for the use of the H-block. And it's interesting, the FCC has been arguing for 4 years under what condition could the H-block be used. So this would allow a little bit more competition. It's not a huge band, but a little bit more competition for cellular. And in resolving this controversy of how to phase it in, because if you turn it on tomorrow, some cell phones would get interference. Okay. So, but, you know, there are solutions. The population of cell phones could improve, very similar to this problem. The technical details are different, the frequency is different, but the population of cell phones has to improve, and the use of the H-block has to be phased in gradually, and you know, this is how we get on with life. There is a real social cost, economic cost, of letting spectrum lie fallow because somebody's population of receivers has some problems that will be avoided in the next generation. And it's sort of a shame that in the TV spectrum that